Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your attendance. First, I would like to thank God, who is the head of my life, and for giving me a talent that I never knew I possessed. For with Him, all things are possible. In 2024, our oldest son, Lamont, unexpectedly passed, and this has been an extremely tough time for our family. However, with the help of God, we are continuing to walk this out. God has been good to us. Nonetheless, we miss him dearly. He was a very loving and kind son. But God makes no mistakes, so we thank him for the 48 years that we had with him, and we cherish the memories. Secondly, I want to thank my wife, Vera, who is here tonight, to whom none of this would be possible without her support for running the family while I pursued this journey. I missed numerous functions that she covered in my stead, from graduations, proms, birthdays, yours, baby, Mother's Day, and this is just part of the list. I thank you sincerely, and I love you. Furthermore, I want to thank this committee. Your efforts are appreciated. Today, I am humbled to be joining such an elite fraternity of sports officials who define what it means to be excellent at your craft. I want to congratulate my fellow inductees. What an honor it means to be recognized by your peers. Thank you does not seem to be enough. I was never thinking about becoming an official. As a matter of fact, I gave the officials the business. I was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany, and was particularly a good softball player, played on the community team, and thought I was hot stuff. Got ejected from a game, and that guy came to me in the parking lot and challenged me. He said, if you think you can do better than us, this is where we meet, and gave me his card. The next year, I showed up at their meeting, and it seemed like I had had an encounter with every one of them, which prompted a statement when they looked, look who's here. That was in 1986. Becoming an official was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. It introduced me to a whole new way of life, and I met lifelong friends along the way. It also humbled me and taught me that failure is okay. It is what you do after that tough call, or a game that just did not go well. When other officials are moving up the ladder for bigger games, do you become bitter, or you do become better? I chose the latter. I want to thank my mentors, who are many, who not only taught me the game, but taught me the business side and managing difficult situations. John Edwards, Bill Galden, Larry Raines, Parks Bergen, Max Wilkes, who were some of the best fast pitch umpires in the country. They took me to the Blue Gray Classic and other tournaments around the South, where I had to fail or succeed entirely. Little did I know that they were always watching, teaching, and encouraging. Most of all, took the blame for my mistakes until I could stand for myself. So in 1997, when the SEC was looking for umpires, I was a very experienced and battle-tested from calling men's fast pitch softball. I made the roster and stayed there for 24 years. I was a two-sport official, with basketball being the other sport, which was a bit more challenging than softball for me. I really had to work hard to adapt to the speed of the game. To that end, there are several people that I want to thank. First, Greg Brewer, who saw something in me that made him think that I would be a good instructor, to which I did become with the help of people like Curtis Harris, L.Z. Johnson, Sam Short, Greg England, and one of my fellow inductees, William Ziegler, and I can't forget Paul Green. To me, they are the true Hall of Famers. I have had many accomplishments. However, being selected to work in the Women's College World Series, not once, but twice, was the highlight of my career. To be considered as one of the best 8 in the country and making it to the mecca of collegiate softball still had a profound effect on me. It is a recognition that will always remain with you. If I could give any advice to a beginning official, it would be amazingly simple. To become a good official, you must have a passion for that sport. Therefore, learn the rules, become a student of the game, and find you a mentor that you can learn the proper mechanics and develop a presence. Be a good listener, and most of all, not make the same mistakes twice. Be a person of integrity and never lose that. You will find that there is no family like the official family. In summation, sports has been a significant thing in my life, and I want to thank my family for their love and support of me over the years, from those long road trips and listening to me lament about a game, whether good or bad, and being my biggest supporters. I could not have done it without you.
I am thankful for the nomination and to the committee for inducting me in the Alabama Officials Hall of Fame Class of 2025. I want to give thanks to Martha Fay, who has been very supportive to me. She too has made sacrifices with my officiating career, and people often ask her in my absence where I was. Her famous words were always, "He's gone again." But this worked for us. Officiating has afforded us the ability to travel around the country. Basketball, I could always tell Martha what time I would be home. Baseball, however, is another story. My baseball officiating career started in 1979 at Ohio State University, Lima. I had no training nor a clue how to umpire. I accepted the assignment with enthusiasm, not aware of what I was in for. Trust me. After the game, it was clear that I should stop umpiring. Well, I thank the Lord for the encouragement and giving me the desire to give it another shot. A quote from Napoleon Hill: "The starting point of all achievements is desire." 2 years later, I moved to Alabama and pursued officiating and a career in information technology. In 1983, I attended Wendelstedt, graduated high in my class, but the minor leagues that year did not pass a three-man system. At that point, I decided to continue with NCAA and AHSAA. I have multiple fishing memories and would like to share a couple. I got a call from Greg Brewer, Sam Short, inviting me to do my first 6A Boys State High School finals. My very good friend Leo Hickman was in the crew. We were excited, nervous, pumped up for the finals. Early in the first quarter, the basketball was in transition. I was trail, Leo was lead, strong side, table side. Leo stopped in C position. I yelled, "Leo, Leo, go to lead." Consequently, he went down with a torn Achilles. Leo was very disappointed, as we all were, and Hall of Famer Don Stanford came in to relieve Leo. A memorable baseball moment was one of many rivalries, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. In the seventh inning, tie game, I was hitting the elbow with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Mississippi State catcher never got a glove on it. He took his mask off and looked back at me. He had red contacts in his eyes and said, "My bad. Man, I thought I was seeing the devil." The game proceeded to last 7 hours and 18 innings. One embarrassing moment was getting hit on bases as a first baseman did not come off the bag from a wild throw on a bunted ball. And yes, it hit me square without protection. I continued the game, but I did not rub it. Obviously, it was hilarious to the crowd. However, it affected me for 12 years and eventually had surgery. Wilmer Sigler, who's in our 2025 class, was primarily the only reason why I got into basketball. We umpired AHSAA, and after asking me multiple times, I joined the association, and I'm very glad he recruited me. We need to continue to support Alabama High School Athletic Association, searching and recruiting officials in all sports, all levels. There is a shortage of umpires and officials. Now is the time for me to pass the torch, and will continue to support and train next generation of officials. I wish to give thanks to Dan Washburn, Steve Savarese, Mark Jones, Greg Brewer, Sam Short, and Shotlos. I believe in officiating development, making sure that the younger officials implement integrity, rules, and regulations, and adhere to the state policies and procedures. Also, teach proper game management and preventative officiating. Officiating also has allowed me to establish a lifelong friendship all over the state and nation. The most rewarding element of officiating is to end the contest, come off the field, and nobody knows who called the game. Continue with desire and continue to become a better official.
Thank you to everyone in attendance tonight to witness this 2025 Hall of Fame class be inducted into the Alabama Sports Officials Hall of Fame. This is an unbelievable and overwhelming honor. I became involved in officiating to begin with because I love the game, and I wanted to continue to be a part of it after being a player. But over time, I realized that this was much bigger than just a game. I was blessed to have parents and two brothers, Wayne and Tracy, that were great people. They taught me the importance of hard work, honesty, and just simply being a good person. I have been so blessed to have been a football official, a leader in my association, a district director in my district, and currently the state coordinator of football officials, because it allows me to travel the state and share my vision of what an official is. It allows me to communicate to every official in this state, and I appreciate them and help them understand that what they do makes our students better people. I want each official to know that they make this a better world. I want to say thank you to my wife, Laura, sons, Ryan and Daniel, and my daughter, Chelsea, for supporting me as I went to those Sunday night meetings. I worked games 2 or 3 nights a week. I would have not been successful without them and their support. I want to thank my grandson, Jack Ralston, for traveling the state with me on Friday nights as I evaluate officials. I want to thank my coworkers throughout the years, especially those in attendance tonight. It's critical to work for and with those who support you as you officiate. I want to thank Mickey Stewart, who invited me to a football meeting. I worked with Mickey at Dunlop Tires. I was 18 years old, and I loved football, and I jumped at the chance. And I'll always be appreciative of Mickey for introducing me to officiating. I want to thank the late Ray Gargas, my first mentor, a great friend, the one who assigned me to my first state championship game. And I remember Ray, as he was an umpire, running up to me on a Friday night at Sparkman. I was standing there giving a touchdown signal, and I was so proud of it. I was holding it up so everybody in the stadium could see me, that we had a touchdown. He smiles at me and calmly says, "David, you realize you're on the 5-yard line?" Not a Hall of Fame moment. I want to thank the late Greg Brewer, another great mentor. First, as the director of officials, he groomed me to be a championship official, and he assigned me to multiple Super 6 and 7 games over the years. And after Greg's retirement, he spent many nights after midnight talking on the phone with me, trying to help me to be the very best district director I could be. I want to thank Mark Jones, a great example to me as a district director, then his support as he became the AHSAA Director of Officials. I remember the date, time, and where I was when I received that call from Mark, assigning me to the 2017 Super 7 game. That would be my last and most memorable championship game of my career. And as my knees were giving out on me, Mark allowed me to become the Northeast District Director. It allowed me to stay close to the game, and it gave me the opportunity to work with and train the officials in the district. I also want to thank Ken Washington, a great director of officials for the AHSAA, and a smart one also, because he chose me as the state coordinator of football officials. I want to thank Willis Jackson for being a great official and an example to me. Willis taught me to work hard at being the best you can be, and Willis really taught me how to control the sidelines. Once we were preparing for a kickoff, and I heard a whistle. Looking up, I see Willis running toward me. He said, "I have a sideline warning on the visiting team," and this was before I even blow the whistle to begin the game. Another time during a crucial moment in the area championship, the home team was advancing inside the 20-yard line, and between plays, Willis blows his whistle again and then spoke to the police officers nearby. I went over to him and found out he had asked the police to remove 2 people from the sidelines. I later found out it was the principal and the head coach's wife. Willis kept me on my toes. I want to thank Tracy Goodwin, who nominated me to be considered for the Hall of Fame. I want to say thank you to the Alabama Sports Officials Foundation leadership for all you do for the officials in Alabama and for establishing this Hall of Fame. I want to say thank you to the Hall of Fame Screening Committee for selecting me to be considered for the Hall of Fame, and thank you to the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for voting me into the 2025 Hall of Fame class. And I'll end my comments by thanking 4 officials who have become my best friends. I have worked multiple games with them over the years, and when you have those intense games, there are certain officials you know will use great judgment, who without a doubt knows the rules and have proven themselves over and over and over again. You can put all 4 of them at any position on the field and they would be great. And as a district director, I only rated 4 officials ever, a 25. The highest rating you can give an official as a director. And those 4 officials are Mark Werwine, who is the ultimate umpire. As a referee, you always wanted to work with Mark. He was the calm one on the field, never got excited. Mark Russell, who was the serious, focused one from 45 minutes before kickoff until he was dressed and ready to go home, which was about 60 seconds after entering the dressing room after a game. Will Racely, the smartest person I've ever officiated with. He was a great official, and I learned to never question his knowledge. If I went against his advice in a game, I would go home, read the rule, and realize I was wrong. Then there was Jason Elin, who cared more about doing the right thing than any official I've ever worked with. He is a true scholar of the game, and Jason has gone above and beyond the call of duty to help me in every position I have ever served in. If I am truly a Hall of Fame official, it is because of these 4 men. What an unbelievable honor. I am about to be a Hall of Fame official.
Wow, where did I get started? The last 3+ months have been crazy. From the phone call from Robert, aka Shot, informing me that I have been selected to the Alabama Sports Officials Foundation's Hall of Fame. Words don't describe the news, how the news hit me. Thank you to Kevin Hawkins, the Southeast District Director of Football, for nominating me, and thank you for everyone who had a vote. To Mark Kelly, the kind words in the press release. Let me tell you how I got started in officiating. When I was a junior in high school in Montgomery, I was asked if I would like to referee kids' basketball games at the YMCA. I said I would try it. So my career got started. I went to Troy State University after high school and called intramural games, mostly softball. When I moved to Enterprise in 1973, I connected with the local high school football association, the Enterprise Football Officials, now known as Tri-County FBOA. Finding out I knew very little about calling football, I got in the book and learned, listened, and watched all of the other officials, hoping to make a crew, if not the first year, for sure year 2. I leaned on Ty Adams, Kevin Maddox, Avon Bosarge, and many more. My first varsity game in my second year, I was in the field judge position in a 4-man crew. And my referee reminded me not to get too close to the receiver, especially on punts. Well, I found out why. On the first punt that hits the ground, it kicks right between my legs, and I am still looking to see where that ball went out of bounds. As I got better in my own mind, I started serving in many offices in the association. My officiating life and career changed for the best when I met Greg Brewer at one of our local meetings. As you know, back in the day, to get a playoff game, it took time, 4 to 6 years. Greg saw a need to change that and started the state camps for sports officials. At one of the first camps in Troy, Greg said, "Warren, watch the blue shirts, and you will be one of them one day." Thank you, Greg. Everyone here tonight mostly started officiating to stay in the game you loved playing as a child. I did. As I moved up through the ranks of officiating, I made a decision that I did not want to call college ball. I wanted to teach our younger officials, and what a blessing that has become. To see officials grow and to get that call to a finals, a Super 7 assignment is what makes my selection in the Alabama Sports Officials Foundation Hall of Fame my reward. Tracy Deal, Rhonda Kurt, Jessica Noble, Mark Kelly, Kevin Hawkins, Gene Calhoun, Jeff Hilliard, Mark Jones, and Philip Thomas. Philip, do you still have that coin? Every district director I learned and worked with. I would like to leave you with this thought. You can do 4 things at a sporting event: enjoy it, coach it, participate in it, watch it, or officiate it. But to enjoy it, don't try to do any of the 2 at the same time. I would like to also congratulate all of the inductees tonight, and what an honor it has been and to be inducted with y'all. In closing, if Mark had given me more time, I would still be talking for quite a while. So let me thank my better half for the past 52 years and the next 52 years, my wife, Rhonda. If you were not in my corner, I would not be receiving this honor. Now let's go out and recruit the next generation of officials. Thank you, everyone, and thank God. Bless us all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Brock, and on behalf of my brothers, Jim and Davis, and the rest of our family, I want to extend our sincere thanks to the Alabama Officiating Hall of Fame for this recognition of our father, Bobby Brock. Please know that before our father recently passed away, he knew that he might be nominated for inclusion in this terrific group. He helped put some of the materials together, and it really put a pep in his step to know that you remembered what his contributions in athletics were in Alabama and beyond over 50 years ago. So I know he'd be really excited to know that he's being inducted into this group of terrific men and women. Officiating was a calling to my dad, and I know he'd be smiling all night long if he was here with us. My dad had a strong background in athletics. I think that helped him a lot in terms of his officiating career. He was a 3-sport athlete at Sidney Lanier High School in Montgomery. He went on to an athletic scholarship at VPI, now Virginia Tech, where he participated in football, baseball, and basketball his freshman year. My dad we call Pop, so I may refer to him as Pop from time to time. Back in high school, he'd been selected as a first-team All-State player in basketball, and he participated in the first Alabama All-Star basketball game. And then after a year at VPI, he suffered an injury. He came back to Montgomery. He married my mom. A couple of years later, they started a family. But it was about the time that he came back to Montgomery that he began his officiating. He officiated primarily high school football and basketball games. My dad, Pop, he loved being an official. He liked all aspects of it. He liked interacting with the players. He liked interacting with the coaches. And he really loved the time that he was able to spend with his colleagues and his fellow coaches because of the camaraderie that they would develop as a team. He really loved what he did. In 1966, Cliff Harper, whose name will probably be familiar to many of you here, became the supervisor of officiating for the Southeastern Conference. And at that time, he added 3 high school referees from Alabama to the SEC basketball officiating staff. Orman Brown, also in this Hall of Fame, Reggie Copeland in this Hall of Fame, and my dad, Bobby Brock. Pop had the opportunity to interact with some of the best players in college basketball during that era. He called games for the likes of Pete Maravich, Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, officiated games coached by Coach Rupp, Coach Maravich, and Coach McGuire at South Carolina, many others. Stories abound about some of those games and the things that occurred. On one occasion, Coach Rupp invited Pop to give the game ball to Dan Issel, who had just set the Kentucky single-game scoring record of 53 points. But it wasn't always smooth sailing with Coach Rupp and the other coaches. I've certainly heard stories about numerous technical fouls. I've been at games when he would be calling them on coaches, and I've even heard some stories about some games that ended early because of the misconduct of coaches on the floor. But one story that Pop shared that was truly a life lesson for all of us and how to de-escalate a difficult situation concerns Coach Rupp. In one of the games, Coach Rupp was constantly fussing about the calls from the bench. He didn't think he was getting a fair game. Pop visited the bench a few times to discuss some of the calls. Then another call didn't go Kentucky's way. Pop went to the bench, and Pop described the conversation as going something like this. Coach Rupp, "Hey, Bobby, you're not having a good night. You missed another call. You've been missing them all night." And Pop replied to him, "You know, Coach, I think you're right. I think I missed that one." And I can see my Pop jogging back onto the floor again. The game resumed, and Pop was at Rupp's bench for what he thought would be another complaint from the Kentucky's coach, but that was not the message at all. Coach Rupp said, "Bobby, if you're still in town tomorrow, why don't you come to my house for lunch?" I always got tickled about that one. I don't remember if the lunch happened or not. It probably didn't. But I can't tell you how many times in my life I've used that kind of approach to resolve disagreements, sometimes with really disagreeable people. Let me take just a minute to say a few words about my mom also. Beyond Pop's achievements on the fields and the courts, his greatest love was his family, especially our mom, Mary Lucy Carmichael Brock, to whom Pop was married for 68 years. Their partnership was rooted in love, respect, and shared values. My mom had a progressive eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa that causes blindness. There was no cure then or now. And after Pop had been calling games in the SEC for 6 or 7 years, I got to the point where my mom's eyes condition was such that she couldn't drive anymore. My mom was raising 3 rambunctious boys at the time. My Pop was needed at home more. She needed more support. And so even though my dad would continue to participate in training and mentoring young officials, he met with Mr. Harper to let him know that he was needed more at home than on the court. He loved officiating, but he loved his family more. And I've heard from several people that knew my dad at that time that just said they had a huge amount of respect for Pop putting his family first, because everyone understood that Pop loved officiating. I'll close by saying this. I heard my dad say a few times that officiating for him was a love, and I heard him say many times, "We don't do this for the money," and I'm sure folks here can appreciate that. I remember him saying that he made more in expenses than he was paid for officiating the games. I think my dad called his last game when I was about 13 years old, so It's hard to remember all the details, but it sticks in my mind that he was getting paid about $170 to travel to Baton Rouge or to Jackson, Mississippi or Atlanta to call a game. And I can remember many times he'd check us out of school, take us over to the game. We'd come back that night, sometimes arriving as the sun was coming up. And the reason we'd be traveling overnight is that if he didn't get a hotel room in the city where he was calling the game, he'd get the money for the hotel room anyway, and that'd be a little more income for the family. But I think it's important for all of us to remember that my dad, and I know the other people that are involved in officiating that are here, aren't doing this for the money. They're doing it because they love the game and they want to see the contest be conducted in a fair way. And I think that's who my dad was and what he was about as an official. He certainly had that reputation. I'm at the end of my time, and so I just want to say thank you again. Thank you very much for this recognition of my dad. As I said earlier, I know he'd be thrilled to know that this is occurring, that he's being remembered for this. And if he was here, I know he'd be smiling from ear to ear the whole time. Who knows? Maybe he knows this is happening. I hope he does. And I'll just conclude by saying God bless and thank you.
I would like to thank this committee for giving me this award. It is an incredible honor to join this great group of officials who are already in the Hall of Fame. I would like to thank my son Brian, his wife Donna, my granddaughter, and other family and friends who have supported me through the years. But the one I have to give the most credit for, thanks to, is my wife Jackie, who is no longer with us. She always supported me in all my endeavors, but especially officiating. She always had a sweet smile and a word of encouragement, my clothes ready for the next day, and usually a homemade chocolate pie for my midnight snack. I started officiating in 1957 because I love sports, wanted to stay involved. My older brother had been officiating for several years already and had worked in several state tournaments. We called a lot together in those early years, and he gave me some great constructive criticism. It got me started in the right direction. He was a great mentor, as were many others. I've been lucky to make some really wonderful friends through the officiating over the years. We've had a lot of fun and walked away in some funny stories. When I started officiating, we didn't start with junior high games the way we do now. My first assignment was a junior varsity game, and I remember working a basketball game in a small gym one night, and it was packed. When the play was coming down the floor, the trail official called walking. The crowd wasn't pleased, and as I was handing the ball to the player for the throw-in, an older lady stood up and kicked me on the shin. She must have had on steel-toed shoes because it hurt, but I never let her know it. In another game, I was under the basket, called a foul on a shot. When I looked at the trail official, he said it was good. As I started to count it, the clock keeper said it didn't go. I looked back at him, at the other official, and he swore it did. I kind of gave him a look. He said the shot was good a third time. Then the other team coach butted in with, "Y'all hadn't got one right all night." When he said that, I just turned to the scorekeeper and I said, "Count it." And we continued to play, and that other official happened to be a Hall of Famer. It's been a few years since all this happened, but I still keep busy with sports. I still go to 3 or 4 basketball games a week during the season, with football on the weekend in the fall, baseball and softball during the spring. Yes, I'm 89-year-old, still drive and go where I want to, when I want to, with the blessings of my family. I would encourage anyone with love for sports to get involved in officiating. It's brought me a lot of joy and satisfaction. But you have to realize that if it's a big responsibility and you have to be willing to learn and give it your best every night. Officials need to know that the game they're officiating that night, whether it be junior high or college, is the most important game for both the players and fans of those teams being played that night. If you can do this, you'll be just fine, and I hope it brings you the same kind of happiness and friendship it brought me. Once again, I would like to thank the committee for this honor.
When I received a phone call from Robert Lose notifying me that I had been nominated and selected to become a member of the Alabama Sports Officials Hall of Fame, brought a flood of emotions and was a very humbling moment. Robert's call was more exciting than when I was informed that I had been selected to participate in my first state championship baseball series. This is such a tremendous honor and one that will be fondly remembered. I would not have had the success in my officiating career had it not been for the support of my dear wife, Glenda. She spent many nights and weekends taking care of our family while I pursued my passion of officiating sports. When I first started, she often said that I would call whatever sport was in season, even if I did not get paid, and she was probably correct. In 1974, I started officiating in Troy, Alabama, under the direction of Scotty Sowers, who was an officiating legend in the Troy area. He gave me encouragement, guidance, and reinforced the concept of fair play, that we were the third team on the field, and our job was to make sure that the athletes and coaches received my best effort and to ensure fair play. He instilled the concept that the most important game that day was the one those kids were participating in and that I owed them my best effort. There are no shortcuts to success, and you are to always exhibit integrity and professionalism. During my officiating career, I prided myself on the diligent study of the playing rules and adherence to the proper mechanics employed on the field. To enforce the spirit of the rule, and above all to hustle and be in the correct spot to make the call. One person who has inspired me to always work hard is Dan Capps. I became acquainted with Dan in the Southeast Alabama Baseball Umpires Association. Dan was a former coach who became one of the best umpires that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Due to health issues, Dan had to have a heart transplant, but recovered and resumed working on the field. Dan's dedication to his faith, family, and the art of umpiring left an indelible mark on my life and pushed me to continue to work hard. I had the pleasure of working many games with Dan, and I knew that he could be depended on when we were on the field. The greatest thing was his friendship off the field. For that, I'm very grateful. There are many highs and lows in life and officiating, but it's much easier to remember the highs. Some of the highs of my officiating career are memories of working in the Texas State High School Baseball All-Star Game in the Houston Astrodome, the Texas State Baseball Finals at Dish Falk Field on the campus of the University of Texas, Alabama High School All-Star Football Game at Crampton Bowl, the Alabama High School All-Star Baseball Game, and Alabama State Championships in football and baseball. Through officiating, I've been able to visit many places and make lifelong friendships. There's a special camaraderie among the officiating community, and I would never have been able to have any success if not for the support of my fellow officials and the local associations that I've been a member of and the mentorship that was so freely given. In closing, I again want to thank the Alabama Sports Officials Foundation for this tremendous honor.
First, giving honor to God, the author and finisher of my faith. Thank you, Robert Lose, for the introduction, and to the fine people who make up the selection committee for honoring me with this wonderful award. This is a wonderful award. All the glory belongs to God and the people who supported me along the way, because I did not know anything about officiating basketball. I played baseball and football in high school, and I went to Grambling College on a baseball scholarship. But I always had a passion for sports. I devoted 45 years of coaching or officiating baseball, football, and basketball. I started my officiating basketball when I met Mr. L.V. Green. Mr. L.V. Green made sure I knew all the ins and outs of officiating basketball. He did not want me to become just a basketball official. He wanted me to become a great basketball official. With no basketball camps in Mobile, I became a better official by reading the rule books and observing top officials such as Paul Green, Darrell Spencer, William Jesse, Bill Ettridge, Charlie Roberts, and Bobby Brown. There was others who helped me to reach my officiating goal. Sam Shaw and Greg Brewer made me believe in me and made this dream a reality by inviting me to the region and state tournament, as well as selecting me as a state camper instructor. Paul Green, I consider my mentor, helped me become a better official, and the reason that I'm standing here tonight. We talk every day about officiating, and we always end our call with, "You pray for me and I'll pray for you. Thanks for being my friend." Officiating offers many opportunities, both serious and funny. I remember a game I had when a 250-pound coach charged my partner in the middle of the court about a call. My partner said, "Coach, I'm going to give you a T for every step you take to the bench." So the coach called his players to pick him up and carry him to the bench. We gave him 1 T. I would like to thank Mark Jones, Alabama Official Foundation, the Gulf Coast Official Association in Mobile, fellow officials, family, and friends. Finally, being away from home most of the time, officiating and coaching, it would not have been possible without the help and support of my devoted wife, Helen. She journeyed through life with me, never leaving my side, and she blessed me with 3 children. My daughter, Linda, her husband, Christopher Colvin, my son, Wilmer Jr., his wife, Carol Sigler, and my son, Kelvin, and his wife, Tanya Sigler. You have brought great joy to my life. This is a great honor, but all the glory belongs to God and the people who support me along the way. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate that you're here because someone close to you, a father, grandfather, mother, or grandmother in another year, went to great pains to service a game or games that they loved. When I say pains, I mean just that. In the off season, they were attending meetings about the game. It might be about conditioning, but it's always about the upcoming rule changes for the year. When you're doing a game in the first weeks of February, it's cold. Standing behind the plate or the touchline in soccer on those cold nights is uncomfortable. Working basketball in small county gyms where you get the immediate, close feedback from fans and coaches is uncomfortable. In football, you start in mid-August heat and you finish in cold, rainy nights in November. So yes, there's a certain level of pains in officiating. For each of you who have gone through it, you have my sincere admiration. So how did someone who grew up in Hartselle, Alabama in the mid-'60s end up as a soccer official? I'll lay blame for that on Jim Spain's Recreation Department in Florence. They were just starting a youth and adult program in 1977 when I moved there to work at TVA. I was looking for a sport where I could use my foot speed, but the Florence Park and Rec had slow-pitch softball and half-court basketball. I tried adult soccer and found I really liked it, but they had a problem. They only had a couple of referees, so does that sound familiar? I volunteered to learn the rules, and pretty soon I was playing one game and refereeing the next. Eventually, that led to certification with the United States Soccer Federation and then to the collegiate game as well. When the Alabama High School Athletic Association first sanctioned soccer, there were already several schools in North Alabama playing as club, and I was officiating their games. The first year we had state championship play, Greg Brewer invited me to participate in the Final Four. Then 25 years later, when Greg was retiring, he invited me again to participate. Greg and I had a great relationship, and I miss speaking with him very much. Throughout my experiences in officiating, one of the constants is the friendships you make, both in-state and across the country. Each year in November, I get a text or an email from one referee who lets me know he's keeping up with the Auburn-Bama rivalry. Even though he's an Ohio State guy, I send him back a half-hearted "Go Buckeyes." Several years ago, I was doing a youth game at the Florence Sportsplex, and after the game, a man approached me, and when he got close, I recognized him as an official from Vermont who had worked with me several times in the college club championships. I have some favorite moments in the game. Some are funny, others are just those moments when you feel like you've really done it right. One occurred for me in the 6A final between McGill-Tulane and Grissom. I made a simple directional call, but the immediate response from fans made me think I had missed something. I turned to Paul Stanton, who was the assistant referee on that side, and asked loudly, "Did I miss it?" He said, "Yes." I reversed the call and we moved on with the game. I truly believe the fans left that day thinking they had watched a very fairly called championship game. Another day, I was refereeing at the Collegiate Club Championships in Tuscaloosa. I blew the whistle to start play, and then the University of North Carolina and Illinois University played 80 minutes of competitive soccer, and not one person complained or argued a single call. In closing, I want to encourage any of you who aren't officials and are physically capable to get in the game. Even if it's just one night a week during the season, your assigner will love having one more guy or girl to help get the games covered with capable officials. Again, thank you so very much for being here tonight, and be careful on your way home.
My name is Wes Stevenson, and I'm the only child of my late father, Stuart, and my mom, Donna Stevenson, who is here with me tonight. When I was contacted earlier this year to let us know that my dad was receiving this honor, we were obviously very humbled and proud that his legacy will continue to live on in this way. What I did not realize at the time was that I was going to have to write a speech that properly represents my dad and the reasons why he belongs in the Hall of Fame. It is impossible for me to speak for my dad and reminisce about all the significant games he called, and of course the different stories that I'm sure went along with them. All I can do is try to paint a picture through a son who idolized his dad and everything that he did. Growing up the son of Stuart Stevenson in Decatur, Alabama was not always the easiest. My dad was basically a local legend in our community. He helped lead Decatur to their only state basketball championship in 1970. After playing college basketball at Athens College, where he met my mom, they made Decatur their home. As a youngster at school and basketball camps, or anywhere for that matter, I would be asked over and over, "Is Stuart Stevenson your dad?" I was not the athlete my dad was. So much of the time, my last name felt like added pressure. Of course, as I grew older, this perceived burden turned into a blessing. To stay close to the game that had given my dad so much, he decided to become an official. He started out doing both basketball and volleyball. From an early age, I remember loading up in the back seat and heading to whatever gym it would be that night. As I grew older, I began to want to go with my dad, whenever possible, to whatever game he was calling that night. Many times we would be joined in the car with other officials, like Don Stanford, Gary and Keith Spivey, and Thomas Owens, just to name a few. These guys and others like them were not only his colleagues, but they became like brothers to my dad. People in North Alabama would see them show up to a game, and they would refer to them as the Dream Team. My dad officiated basketball at about every level, from junior high, high school, junior college, and NAIA. He had to keep his referee bag packed at all times. My dad loved the camaraderie with his fellow officials, and he especially enjoyed taking younger officials under his wing. One night, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and I got to go with my dad to call a game in Town Creek at the famed Hazelwood High School. If you don't know the history of this powerhouse, look it up. I will never forget walking into the school that night. It was like stepping into an athletic shrine. State championship trophies littered the glass cases as you entered the gym. A massive poster of Pierre Good as a former Gatorade High School Player of the Year hung above them. The gym was packed that night, as I'm sure it was for every game. As in old gyms, the bleachers were right next to the floor, and there were always fans standing and lining the court. The crew that night was my dad, Don Stanford, and they had brought a young guy with them to help mentor and bring him along. At halftime, I would follow the referees into their dressing room, sometimes bringing them a drink or just wanted to hear what they had to say about the first half. This night, the new guy looked at my dad and Don. He was shooken up. He said, "What are we going to do about the fans standing around the court? I'm going to run into someone." They both kind of chuckled, and my dad said, "You're just going to have to run around them, son." Lesson learned. My dad took officiating very seriously. When we watched college games on TV, we would study the mechanics of guys like John Clougherty, Jim Burr, and Andre Patillo. I was the only kid in middle school who could name basketball officials. My dad's demeanor would change when he was working a game. At home, my dad was one of the most laid back and patient guys around. But on the court, he was in charge. He could be stern with coaches, but could communicate with them in other ways as well. I remember a time Dad was calling a big area game at Austin High School, who was coached by Alabama Sports Hall of Famer Bob Hart. Coach Hart was also a scratch golfer. There was a bang-bang block charge that didn't go Coach Hart's way, and he was letting my dad have it. The next time down, Dad ran in front of him and said, "Coach, you look at that tape in the morning, and if I miss that one, I'll bring you a dozen Titleist." Coach calmed down, and the situation was diffused. And as my dad liked to point out, he didn't call the next day. In closing, all the inductees here tonight are being honored for their commitment to their craft and the excellence you achieved at it in this state. But for many of you, the relationships that were formed with fellow officials and the experiences shared in those big games are things you cherish the most. I know it was for my dad. Thank you.